what to say about a friend and a colleague and a mentor like Dr. Kathy Russell. What an amazing person she was, and in my heart still is. Kathy, Kathy and I met through Associated Ministries. She was the vice chair of the board and part of the interview team that brought me to Tacoma back in 2008. And Kathy found a way of gently entering my life, right? Like, as I settled into the job, she would check in with me. And at first I was suspicious. I'm always suspicious of people early on. I was suspicious of her going, what is she doing calling me? What's that about? But she was gentle enough and kind enough that I realized this is a very kind person. She cares, and she's showing it. It was very sweet. So I started to warm up to her and began talking about some of the things that I was facing at Associated Ministries and some of the changes that seemed apparent that needed to be changed. So Kathy became a thought partner, and slowly I learned what a thought partner she was. The depth of character and intelligence. It was really hard to fathom finding a better thought partner for me. Someone who understood the complexity of the social issues and the complexities of religious life and institutions. And that's what Associated Ministries is, the intersection of social justice and faith and religion. And Kathy was that person who could really see that. I learned so much about Kathy, and I won't recount all of what I know about Kathy, but I do want to just say that Kathy brought a lot to my relationship with her, personally and professionally. Kathy was a big thought partner in helping us at Associated Ministries when we became that centralized source for people experiencing homeless. They would come to us, and I didn't want to just be another place where people came. I wanted that experience to be different for people. And so we began to reimagine Associated Ministries to being a strength-based culture. Instead of looking at people's needs and their neediness and what do they want from us that we can't provide, how do we begin to relate to people differently with their strengths and recognizing their humanity and their dignity? And Kathy understood, not only from an academic point of view, but from a faith perspective, about the dignity and respect of every human being. Kathy was a great thought partner. And that's why we asked, would you be willing to provide training for our growing staff? As our staff changed from 8 or 10 people to 30 and then 40 people, Kathy provided that training and wove in some new insights for us around adverse childhood experiences and the trauma that we experience in our childhood, and what that does to people who are experiencing homelessness and being asked to tell their stories. That secondary trauma, that re-traumatizing. It was very powerful. That's just one anecdote. But Kathy was always kind in the way that she shared herself, her insights, her knowledge. She was amazing. And she had that sense of humor, right? You all know what I mean. I mean, that twisted way of seeing things, those mixed metaphors, up short, the way in which she just told stories that you knew were really trying to gnaw at something, but she was coming at it a little indirectly. Or the music that she did in that course, the protest songs that she would ask students to write, and then she would write the song for herself. She'd write her own protest song each time she offered that course. She brightened up every time she told me, this is the semester I get to teach this course where I get to do the protest songs. It was amazing. A lot of fun to be around. Kathy and I were trying to get together when I was visiting Washington back in, I believe it was June of this year, just before she died. We had been texting, trying to find a date and a time, and she finally said, I can't make it. I just don't have the mobility, and I'm in too much pain. And I was reading a book, In Defense of Kindness. If you haven't read it, you might try it. It's written by a Presbyterian minister who was a moderator, and I'm opening up an envelope. This is the letter that I was writing to Kathy. My last text was asking, what's your home address? I've dropped her off at her house I don't know how many times. I knew where it was in Ferncrest. I just didn't have her address. So on June 13th, I wrote this note. I haven't looked at it since, so I apologize if I get emotional. But here's what I wrote to Kathy. I've been looking forward to coffee or a meal with you now that I'm in the Pacific Northwest for a couple of weeks. I hope it'll work to get together, but if not, this trip may be in July. I wanted to write you to thank you for your kindness. Not niceness, but kindness. As I'm reading In Defense of Kindness, you come to mind as someone who is kind, who accepts that each person is created as a complex human being and treats each person as such, knowing that acceptance includes affirming and challenging, appreciating and calling them on their BS. I've appreciated that about our relationship. Thank you. Thank you.